Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sharon Noble, Director of the BC Coalition to Stop Smart Meters. Welcome to the show, Sharon.
Good morning, Jim. Thank you very much.
We had a lot of hits, a very large number of hits on our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network, about the last time we chatted, and that was revealing that Lloyd's of London would no longer insure damages suspected to be caused by Wi-Fi frequencies. What have you heard after that story, Sharon?
Oh, I received responses from all over the world. This is big news because Lloyd's of London is a leading insurer, and what Lloyd's does, it is pretty darn sure that eventually, and sooner rather than later, the rest of the insurance companies are going to follow along. The fact that Lloyd's of London considers that health effects from exposure to microwave radiation is significant enough for them to say we're not going to cover any health risks associated with this is major news.
Have you heard anything about the microwave radiation coming from new cars that use radar for their collision avoidance systems?
Yeah, I did hear. That's nuts. I mean, and they're also increasing the ability to have Wi-Fi in airplanes. Studies have shown that exposure to Wi-Fi by Wi-Fi I mean wireless radiation, can affect your emotional and neurological systems to the point where you make bad decisions, you get emotionally upset, you may lead to accidents. Airplanes and cars are mini Faraday cages. They're cages it's metal, and this radiation is reflecting inside your car, inside the airplane, increasing the level of exposure. This is dangerous stuff, and people are going to pay the price, and it's going to soon be, people are not going to be able to drive their cars safely, and many people who are sensitive won't be able to travel. If their car isn't emitting radiation, the car next to them will be. Right now, it's very difficult for people who are sensitive to find cars. There's so many that already have things like GPSs in them and hookups to cell phones and things like this. I had to pay extra to have this stuff disabled in my car that we bought last year. It's going to be terrible for those people who are sensitive.
And of course, if you're standing there at an intersection waiting to cross it, all the cars around you are going to be broadcasting microwaves at you.
Well, can you imagine sitting in a traffic jam in the middle of a bridge somewhere where you can't get off? Yeah, you're going to be sitting there with many cars around you. It's ridiculous. I don't understand why they're suggesting this unless it's this new thing where people can plug in something and not even drive their car, have the car drive itself. We're getting to be so dependent upon wireless things that pretty soon we'll have to have a Wi-Fi something or other to feed us. They're even they're advertising now for beds that are with Wi-Fi, and it will be able to adjust your softness while you sleep, and it will determine how many hours you're sleeping well, so in the morning you can punch something at the side and see if you slept well or not. Man, it's becoming a crazy world, Jim.
Whether you slept well or not, I think the reaction is pretty quick for yourself. Am I still tired when I wake up?
Wouldn't you think?
Wow.
Yeah. Yep.
How is the class action lawsuit going?
The class action lawsuit is going. We sent out an update about a week or so ago advising people that there had been a major change in the class action lawsuit. Before, we had attacked it on several issues, for instance, the fact that they were trespassing and things like this, and the fact that we should not be exposed to something that was not covered under law. Under the initial Clean Energy Act, it did not say you had to have a wireless meter, it just said a meter. After we submitted our class action lawsuit in June of 2013, the government kept changing. With meter choices, they changed the definition, they changed many of the conditions. So we've changed too. And now our class action is on behalf of everybody, not just those people who are sick or those people who are wishing to have a meter with the transmitter turned off. Our class action now is based upon charter rights. Our charter right for everyone to have a choice. If you know the meter choice that came in, the option that Bill Bennett offered after Fortis was told by BCUC it had to provide a choice, it said that Anyone who still had their analog could keep their analog until the analog either expired or broke. The option to have the analog replaced did not exist. People who have smart meters who were either tricked or harassed or just didn't know the dangers and were given a smart meter were not given a choice to have the radio transmitter turned off. They're stuck with a full-blown smart meter. When people change accounts, even widows whose account happens to have been in their husband's name, they're forced to take a smart meter when they have the account changed, although they have a right to have the transmitter turned off. They've made it so that virtually everyone will have to have a smart meter down the road. And we're saying this is against our charter rights. According to Section 7 of the Freedom of Rights, Charter of Rights and Freedoms in the Federal Constitution, Section 7, we have a right to decide for ourselves not to have something that we consider potentially dangerous on our home. The government cannot put something on our home that a reasonable person would have concerns about. And if any reasonable person reads any of the scientific evidence that is out there about microwave radiation, about the privacy issue, about the fire issue, we have a right to say no, and the government is trampling on these rights. This is the basis of our charter, our class action lawsuit now.
There seems to be a large spate of fatal fires lately. Are they connected to smart meters?
I'm investigating, Jim, but I am having a dickens of a time getting information. I ask for reports from BC Hydro that I have a right to. It's public information. For instance, I get fire reports, and it says that the fire was caused by electrical distribution equipment failure. Even Len Garris, who wrote in his, when he was paid to write that report that was based upon false information and he came to a phony conclusion that smart meters are safe, he said that there had been fewer electrical distribution equipment fires, which means that the smart meter is safe because these would be fires attributable to the meters. I've got a lot of fires that are attributable to these failures of electrical distribution equipment. I write to Hydro and ask for information about the failure, and they're hiding behind the Freedom of Information Act. They're telling me that according to the rules, Section 22 in the Freedom of Information Act, they can't give me this information because it's private. And I said, private to whom? They say, a third party. Who's this third party? I'm not asking for information about the individual. In fact, usually I provide the individual's name, the address of the fire, and the date of the fire. All I want is information about the equipment. And they're hiding behind the Freedom of Information Act that is there to provide to privacy and protect privacy of individuals, not the corporations, not the government. And I'm having a dickens, they will not provide it. And I write to the Privacy Commissioner and complain. And the Privacy Commissioner accepts my complaint and says, but there's a big backlog. It could be months before they get to it. And so I can't get information. Hydro is refusing to provide it. And something interesting that I just recently discovered, the Fire Commissioner, I've been going to the Fire Commissioner for information on the fires themselves, and often, despite the law that they're supposed to get information virtually immediately, often the reports aren't there for 2 or 3 years. So I've been asking them to follow up, and just a couple of weeks ago, the Fire Commissioner told me, he doesn't get the full report. The only thing he wants is statistics under his high-level codes. What is the fire's cause? Is it electrical? Nothing specific, just general. Was it electrical? Was it due to, big headings like it's a fire, cooking fire? Was it a grass fire? Nothing specific. So the Fire Commissioner told me that I have to go to each fire department. They maintain the information there. There is no agency that gets the whole file and is looking at this. I think that this is very disturbing. And when you ask, do I know whether there's any connection to the smart meter? It's going to take me months of digging to find out. But I'm continuing to dig.
It's still amazing where Saskatchewan, where they had 8 or 9 fires attributed to smart meters, they canceled the program and bought them back. What about other jurisdictions? Are they doing the same thing?
Minor correction, Jim. Saskatchewan had 1 fire. They had 8 failures. They stopped the program before they had a fire. The failures they were talking about were meters overheating, melting, and burning, darkening, but they didn't cause fires. Many of their incidents were linked to water accumulation in the meter, which led to arcing. I've got dozens of those, and I've sent them to the government. I've sent them to Adrian Dix. I've sent them to everyone. I've sent them many to the media. Nothing whatsoever. In fact, Hydro denies that they've occurred. I've got pictures of melted meters on homes that victims have sent me, and Hydro denies it. So, yeah, in answer to your question, yes, Portland, Oregon has stopped their smart meter program based upon 12 failures and I believe it was 2 fires. Areas of Florida have stopped their smart meter program. Areas of Ontario have stopped their smart meter program. And when they stop it, they're removing the smart meters off homes and they're replacing them with analogs.
We'll have more with Sharon Noble right after this.
More and more people are looking to the internet for intelligent, riveting, and thought-provoking interviews. To advertise on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com, call 604-699-8600, 604-699-8600.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sharon Noble, Director of the BC Coalition to Stop Smart Meters. You said there are hearings on Parliament Hill now that are bringing up the issue of smart meters, and they're asking some very tough questions.
Well, the hearings on Parliament Hill are asking about general Safety Code 6 and EMR issues. As you probably remember, after many letters, many people across the country complaining about the inadequacy of Safety Code 6, the Royal Society was appointed by Health Canada, with several members who were affiliated with the industry. 2 people resigned, including the director of the Royal Panel, Daniel Krusky, after he was charged with conflict of interest. And the Royal Panel was given studies by Health Canada, no transparencies. We don't know how they determined what studies to give them. And the panel came back a few months ago saying that basically Safety Code 6 is just fine, that there was no change and that there was no indication that there was any significant problem. Even though other countries have found them, these health problems, the World Health Organization has said it's a 2B carcinogen. Health Canada says everything is just fine. Well, for the first time ever, we've got enough people across Canada now who are knowledgeable and concerned, and we spoke up. There were thousands of us who wrote in letters to the government complaining about this decision, who said that the panel was biased, that the members of the panel, many of them had conflicts of interest, others of them were unqualified. They had no experience, including the chair. He admits he had no experience or training in this field. And so we complained. And the subcommittee in charge of health, of the health department, called a hearing. And the first hearing was just about 2 weeks ago. I think it was the 26th of March. And it's available. If you go on to c4st.org, you can listen to it. And if you go into an update that I sent out last night, you can read the transcript. You will see that there's hard questioning by these MPs. They are asking why they were so selective in their studies. There were 150 studies that were sent to the Royal Society that had been done recently within the last 2 years, showing causation, showing why these health effects are occurring. This has been the big missing piece of the puzzle. People didn't know. Scientists weren't sure why the health effects were happening. They knew they were happening, but the causation wasn't there. Now there have been many studies that are showing the causation. Scientists now know why many of the health effects are happening, how the cells are being entered, how the DNA is being damaged, and those studies were ignored. The HESA is what the name of the panel is called. It's called HESA. The members instructed the Royal Society and Health Canada to go back and explain why these 150 studies were ignored. That's major. They're instructing them to go back and identify every single solitary study and explain why they ignored it. The next panel will be heard on April 23rd, and the hearing results will be available online. I'll make sure that it gets circulated to everyone so that they can listen to it or read the transcript. The first hearing, Dr. Martin Blank and Dr. Meg Sears presented, and as well as did 3 or 4 members of the panel, the Royal Society panel, presented, trying to defend their stance. And I think this will be very interesting because people are raising questions now. The public is becoming involved here, and it's amazing. In 2010, when I helped organize the HESA committee, there were very few people who were interested enough to submit information and questions and whatever. In the last 5 years, people have become so much more aware of this issue. It's really very, very significant. I think major changes are going to be brought.
Sharon, thanks a lot for chatting with us.
Thank you very much, Jim. I appreciate it very much that you're keeping this issue alive.
And please remind people what websites they can go to for more information.
The Coalition's website is www.stopsmartmetersbc.com, and the Citizens for Safe Technology is www.citizensforsafetechnology.org. And we try our best to keep everyone informed by putting articles there.
Thanks again.
Thank you, Jim. Bye-bye.
My guest has been Sharon Noble, Director of the BC Coalition to Stop Smart Meters. You're listening to the Goddard Report on TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Our popular YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Comments about the show can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.